Something strange is happening inside modern relationships, and almost no one sees it until it's too late. Most marriages don't end with shouting, cheating, or slammed doors. They end quietly, while both people are still smiling in photos. It doesn't happen in a courtroom or during an argument. It happens at the dinner table between two people scrolling through their phones in silence. It happens in the living room, where a husband and wife sit on opposite ends of the couch, sharing space but not connection. It happens in the bedroom, where bodies still lie side by side, but hearts have already moved miles apart. This is the silent divorce, the slow, invisible death of a relationship that still looks perfectly fine on the outside. And what makes it terrifying is that it doesn't start with betrayal. It starts with disconnection. There's no explosion, no defining event you can point to and say, that's when it ended. Instead, there's a gradual fading. The conversations get shorter. The laughter gets rarer. The affection turns mechanical, like two people checking boxes out of habit rather than passion. At first, you tell yourself it's just a phase. Everyone gets busy. Everyone drifts a little. But somewhere deep down, you feel it. The warmth that used to live between you has cooled into polite tolerance. And that's the part that most couples never admit. You don't need to stop loving someone to lose them. All you need to do is stop showing up emotionally. See, when emotional distance creeps in, it doesn't announce itself like infidelity does. There are no text messages to find, no suspicious names to confront. Emotional distance slips in through routine, through comfort, through the slow assumption that love is self-sustaining, that you don't have to feed it anymore. That's the real trap. Because while one partner thinks everything is fine, the other is quietly starving for connection. They stop feeling seen, they stop feeling chosen, and soon they stop trying. Until one day, there's no energy left to fix what's broken. No anger, no effort. Just two people going through the motions, living together, but already divorced in every way that matters. And that's the cruelest part of the silent divorce. It's not loud enough to scare you. It's gentle enough to convince you that nothing's wrong. But underneath the calm, something is dying. Not love, not yet, but the aliveness that love needs to survive. The silent divorce never begins with a betrayal. It begins with erosion, a slow, quiet, and invisible process. It starts with tiny moments you barely notice. A missed good night, a distracted when you're trying to talk. A kiss on the cheek that feels more like routine than affection. You tell yourself it's nothing. Everyone gets tired, everyone gets busy. But the truth is, the connection isn't breaking, it's wearing down. Like water dripping on stone, time and neglect carve tiny cracks into what once felt unbreakable. At first, it's subtle. You still say, "I love you," but it sounds like muscle memory. You still share meals, but conversation feels transactional, about groceries, bills, logistics. There's no spark, no curiosity, no laughter that comes from nowhere. And yet, you keep going through the motions, convincing yourself that stability is enough. You think, we've been together for years. This is just what long-term love looks like. But here's the truth. Love doesn't die from conflict. It dies from silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that fills the room with unspoken words, with things you both stopped saying out loud. Over time, the silence gets louder. You stop asking about their day because you already know the answer. You stop reaching for their hand because it feels awkward now. You stop sharing your thoughts because you assume they wouldn't understand anyway. And every time you choose comfort over connection, the distance grows. It doesn't feel like falling out of love. It feels like getting used to emptiness. You tell yourself that nothing's wrong because there's no fighting, no chaos, no drama. But peace without intimacy isn't peace. It's surrender. This is how the erosion phase works. It replaces passion with predictability. It replaces affection with habit. It replaces emotional intimacy with quiet resignation. And the tragedy is, you won't even notice it happening until it's almost complete. You'll look at your partner one day, sitting across the table, and realize you haven't really seen them in years. You'll hear them talk, but not feel anything anymore. And the worst part? They're feeling it too. But neither of you will say it. Because it's easier to pretend everything's fine than to confront how far you've drifted. By the time most couples realize what's happening, the connection is already half gone. The house is still standing, but the foundation is cracked. And every polite smile, every unspoken truth, every emotionally empty night makes the collapse inevitable. This is the quiet phase before the storm, when love isn't dead yet, but it's gasping for air. And unless someone wakes up soon, the silence will finish what time started. Every couple thinks the biggest threat to their relationship is conflict. It's not. It's comfort. Comfort feels safe, familiar, predictable. It's the quiet routine of knowing what your partner likes for breakfast, what shows they'll fall asleep to, and what mood they'll be in after work. At first, that safety feels like love maturing. But over time, that same comfort becomes the silent killer. You stop flirting because you feel secure. You stop surprising them because you assume they'll always be there. You stop trying because effort feels unnecessary. Or worse, awkward after all these years. And that's how passion dies. Not in a fight, but in the slow decay of effort. See, early love runs on uncertainty. The unknown keeps you awake at night, keeps your heart racing, keeps your brain flooded with dopamine. But once the mystery fades, so does the urgency. You start mistaking comfort for connection, safety for depth. You start thinking, we're good. We don't need to talk about everything. We've been together long enough. But here's the truth. When two people stop being curious about each other, they stop seeing each other. And that's when emotional distance begins to harden. Comfort whispers, you don't need to chase anymore. And slowly, you stop showing the parts of yourself that once made you magnetic. The humor, the playfulness, the confidence, the passion. You trade spark for safety. You stop reaching, stop exploring, stop risking vulnerability. You think it's peace. But what you're really building is emotional numbness. The danger of comfort is that it creates a false sense of security. You think you're close because you share a home, a bed, a history. But proximity isn't intimacy. Touching the same mattress doesn't mean you're touching the same heart. And so, the relationship quietly shifts from alive to stable, from connected to comfortable, from loving to coexisting. You start living parallel lives, not out of resentment, but routine. And routine feels safe, until one day you realize it's also lonely. You don't remember the last time they made your heart skip. You don't remember the last time you told them something real. You don't remember the last time you looked at them, really looked, and felt that spark of us. Because comfort has replaced curiosity. And the truth is, love without curiosity slowly dies. You can share decades, raise children, build wealth, even grow old, and still experience a silent divorce long before the papers ever come. That's the comfort trap. It doesn't destroy marriages overnight. It lulls them to sleep until there's nothing left to wake up for. It's called emotional abandonment. It happens quietly, without lies, without secrets, without the shock of discovery, because there's nothing to find. It's the moment your partner stops showing up emotionally, while still living right beside you. They still come home. They still eat dinner. They still say, "Good night," but they're not there. Their body is present. Their mind is miles away. At first, you can't explain it. You just feel it. That strange distance, that lack of warmth. The conversations become short, shallow, polite. You ask how their day was, they say, "Fine," and that's it. No laughter, no spark, no soul. It's not hostility, it's emptiness. And that's what makes it worse. Because with anger, at least there's still passion. With arguments, there's still a fight for connection. But when one person checks out emotionally, there's only quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a ghost haunting the home. You start noticing the little things. They don't ask about your thoughts anymore. They stop remembering the details that used to matter. Your favorite song, your bad days, your hopes. They used to touch you as they walked by. Now they walk past you like furniture. And the cruelest part? They don't even realize they're doing it. Emotional abandonment isn't planned. It's protective. When people feel unseen or unfulfilled long enough, their heart starts to shut down to survive. They stop reaching out because rejection hurts too much. They stop expressing needs because disappointment feels inevitable. So they numb out to avoid pain. But the numbness doesn't protect the marriage. It kills it. You can't build a connection without presence. You can't nurture love when one person is emotionally absent. And this is the paradox. The one who withdraws thinks they're avoiding conflict. The one who's left behind feels abandoned, unwanted, invisible, and both end up lonely, together. This is the stage where most couples start to drift beyond repair. Because you can fix anger, you can fix mistakes, but it's almost impossible to fix indifference. Once emotional abandonment sets in, the relationship still looks alive, but it's running on memory. Like a photograph of a fire that once burned, but now only shows the ashes. That's the real tragedy of emotional distance. It doesn't just destroy love. It erases the feeling of ever having loved at all. There's a kind of cheating that doesn't involve another person, and it destroys more marriages than infidelity ever could. It's called emotional abandonment. It happens quietly, without lies, without secrets, without the shock of discovery, because there's nothing to find. It's the moment your partner stops showing up emotionally while still living right beside you. They still come home. They still eat dinner. They still say, "Good night." But they're not there. Their body is present. Their mind are miles away. At first you can't explain it. You just feel it. That strange distance. That lack of warmth. The conversations become short, shallow, polite. You ask how their day was, they say fine, and that's it. No laughter, no spark, no soul. It's not hostility, it's emptiness. And that's what makes it worse. Because with anger, at least there's still passion. With arguments, there's still a fight for connection. But when one person checks out emotionally, there's only quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a ghost haunting the home. You start noticing the little things. They don't ask about your thoughts anymore. They stop remembering the details that used to matter. Your favorite song, your bad days, your hopes. They used to touch you as they walked by. Now they walk past you like furniture. And the cruelest part? They don't even realize they're doing it. Emotional abandonment isn't planned. It's protective. When people feel unseen or unfulfilled long enough, their heart starts to shut down to survive. They stop reaching out because rejection hurts too much. They stop expressing needs because disappointment feels inevitable. So they numb out to avoid pain. But the numbness doesn't protect the marriage. It kills it. You can't build a connection without presence. You can't nurture love when one person is emotionally absent. And this is the paradox. The one who withdraws thinks they're avoiding conflict. The one who's left behind feels abandoned, unwanted, invisible. And both end up lonely, together. This is the stage where most couples start to drift beyond repair. Because you can fix anger. You can fix mistakes. But it's almost impossible to fix indifference. Once emotional abandonment sets in, the relationship still looks alive, but it's running on memory. Like a photograph of a fire that once burned, but now only shows the ashes. That's the real tragedy of emotional distance. It doesn't just destroy love, it erases the feeling of ever having loved at all, the ghost of the love they took for granted. The ghost of words that could have saved everything, if only they'd been said in time. And those ghosts don't leave easily. They linger in old songs, familiar smells, and the hollow quiet of an empty home that still remembers laughter. This is the price of emotional distance. It doesn't just end a relationship. It erases belonging. Because in the end, the silent divorce doesn't destroy love in one blow. It drains it, drop by drop, until there's nothing left but memories of what could have been. Every love story teaches something. Some teach passion, some teach patience, and some, like the silent divorce, teach through loss. The lesson is simple, but brutal. Love doesn't disappear overnight. It dies from neglect, from silence, from taking connection for granted. The real tragedy isn't that two people stop loving each other. It's that they stop feeding the love that used to feel effortless. Because love is like oxygen, invisible when it's there, devastating when it's gone. You don't notice the small moments that keep it alive until you've stopped doing them. The late-night talks, the small touches, the genuine curiosity, the laughter that used to erupt out of nowhere. When those vanish, the connection doesn't collapse instantly. It just starves. And here's the truth. Most people don't want to face. Relationships don't end because of big things. They end because of small things left undone for too long. It's the unanswered text, the ignored apology. The I love you was said without meaning. The constant choosing of distraction over presence. Every time you look at your phone instead of your partner. Every time you avoid a hard conversation. Every time you assume there's always more time. You're taking one more breath of oxygen out of the relationship. Until one day, it finally stops breathing. The silent divorce teaches us that connection isn't a one-time achievement. It's a daily choice. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic passion. It's about small moments of intentional presence. Look your partner in the eye when they talk, asking how they're really feeling, touching them for no reason, apologizing when ego wants to win, listening even when you disagree. These are not luxuries, they are lifelines. Because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And once indifference moves in, love has no room to grow. If you take anything from this story, take this. Don't wait for a crisis to start caring again. Don't wait for silence to realize how much noise love used to make. The lesson is not about guilt. It's about awareness. It's about waking up before the drift begins. Because no matter how long you've been together, every day is a new opportunity to choose connection or to lose it. And the truth? Love doesn't need perfection. It just needs attention. If both people give that, if they choose to be emotionally present instead of just physically near, then love doesn't fade. It deepens. The silent divorce isn't destiny. It's a warning. And the lesson it leaves behind is this: you don't need to fight louder. You need to listen deeper. You don't need to love harder. You need to show up. Because when love is fed, it doesn't die quietly. It lives loudly. If the silent divorce is about disconnection, then the cure, the only cure, is presence. Reconnection doesn't begin with words or therapy or promises. It begins with awareness, the simple, painful realization that somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing each other. But here's the beautiful truth. The distance can be closed. Silence can be broken. And love, even after years of neglect, can be rebuilt. Not by going back to how things used to be, but by learning to love again, intentionally. It starts small, not with grand gestures, but with eye contact that lasts a little longer, with hands that reach across the table instead of scrolling past it, with, "How was your day?" asked like you mean it. You can't fake reconnection. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about being brave enough to say, somewhere, we lost each other, and I want to find us again. That one sentence, honest, vulnerable, raw, has more power than 1,000 apologies. Because what your partner truly wants isn't perfection. It's presence. To feel seen again. To feel chosen again. To know they still matter in your world. Reconnection means showing up even when it's uncomfortable. It means leaning into the awkwardness of rebuilding trust, of saying the words you stopped saying, of feeling the emotions you tried to numb. You won't fix years of distance overnight. But the moment you stop pretending, the moment you look at your partner and see them again, the healing begins. Because love doesn't die in a single moment, and it doesn't come back in one either. It returns slowly, like dawn after a long night, first with a glimmer, then a warmth, then a light that fills the room again. That's the power of presence. That's the power of choosing to stay awake in your own relationship. The silent divorce happens when two people go to sleep emotionally. The reconnection begins the moment one of them decides to wake up. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that sounds like us, it's not too late. Start small. Start today. Ask, listen, touch. Look up from the noise and notice the person who's been beside you all along, because love doesn't just need history. It needs attention. It needs curiosity. It needs courage. And when two people decide to give that again, to stop existing and start engaging, the silence breaks, the distance closes, and the marriage that once felt like a ghost starts breathing again. Because reconnection isn't a miracle. It's a choice. One you can make. Right now.